Strolling through the woods where the shadows dance, chasing wild dreams, taking every chance. With a friend named Bigfoot, side by side we roam. Outlaws of the forest, this place feels like home. Join the gang, it's a wild ride. Bigfoot, outlaw, living free and bold, chasing wild dreams, never growing old. We run with the wolves under the silver sky. With a friend named Bigfoot, we'll never say goodbye.
Number 1, civil target is flight 4, Bravo, 65, 20 low. Overall.
Well, good evening there, Sir Mike. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great, Grizzly. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, kind sir. So how's the weather where you're at?
Well, it's been cold all week. We had ice. Pretty much all we had was ice. We had it at the beginning of the week, and the temperatures have not risen above freezing. So, the roads are fine now in the area, but it's still, the still in the trees, and then as soon as you're going to get a break in the weather, maybe tomorrow getting to 35, 36, you're going to come back with another 3 to 5 inches of snow on Friday. So winter time is here.
Yes, it is. We got about 8.5 inches, and I think they're expecting about 4 to 6.5. So it's coming back in this weekend.
So it's a makeup for we probably had 2 or 3 mild winters in a row where we didn't have much. So we're making up for it.
Isn't that the truth? Well, they said it was going to come, and I guess it is coming, and it is. A little twist that says it's bipolar weather.
Yeah.
So, but a lot of people are saying they got withdrawals from Bigfoot. They want to go out, and especially with all the snows, it is a good time to go out there to look.
The snow's a great time to go out and track, but it's also a good time to get your vehicle stuck or slide off into a ditch too if you don't have the proper, vehicles and stuff like that. So the but I was fortunate enough a couple years ago to be able to go out and track when we had about 3 or 4 inches of snow on the ground, and my son and I went out just to get out of the house and go do something, and we tracked one well over 100 yards in the snow. I mean, it was beautiful seeing the perfect steps, the left and the right foots and the strides, and going through that, and about a 16-inch track. And the only reason we quit was he went down a steep ravine, and I thought, well, if I go down that steep ravine, I'm gonna have to try to come back up out of it. So
Right.
100 yards is enough. So yeah. But yeah, nothing more fun than that. But be careful when you're out there, because what was the news over Christmas break, Grizzly? A couple of researchers up
Yeah,
in
they died.
Washington State were found dead up there. So the and so be careful when you're out there. That's for sure.
Well, you get the snow drifts and everything's slippery with the snow and ice, and you can slip and fall. Anytime you're out in nature, whether
Yeah.
you have snow or ice or not, you just got to be careful.
Got to be careful.
You really do.
The little twist. It says my mic sounds great. I got a new device. Actually, I had it. I just thought, well, I better use this one instead of the other one. So I started doing this about 3 shows ago. So we got a much better sound. So
Yeah, it does sound great. It really does.
But Flat Rock is in the house tonight.
Yeah, welcome, Flat Rock. Nice to have you there.
And I had a guy. I had a guy reach out to me, and if you ever look at a Google Earth map where I live in Cape Girardeau, Missouri, we're on the Mississippi River, about 100 miles south of St. Louis, and just north of us is a state park called Trail of Tears State Park, where the Cherokees migrated through there, and on that dreadful march they were forced to go on back in the early 1800s. And Trail of Tears State Park is there, and then you have north of Trail of Tears, you have a big Procter and Gamble plant. They make the diapers, for the kids and babies and stuff like that. And then north of that, you go up into the Apple Creek area, where I do most of my research, up in that area where Apple Creek runs into the Mississippi on the west, and right across from where it runs into the Mississippi, the Big Muddy River runs into it from the Illinois side. Everybody's heard of the Big Muddy Monster. And so that's all prime Bigfoot habitat up there. And we always thought between Trail of Tears and the Apple Creek area that there's a little bottleneck, railroad tracks going through there, and we always thought that'd be a prime travel way for the Sasquatches to kind of get over there and get out of the way and go from one area to the other. And one of my buddies has always said, if only we could talk to some of those railroad workers that working those tracks at night and see what they know. Well, I had one reach out to me just today.
Wow.
Hey, Mike, I've seen you on some of these podcasts, and you talk about Cape Girardeau County, and he had a sighting right in that little bottleneck area in 2004 one night when he was working the tracks, and surprised the nonsense out of him when he was shining the flashlight on it and saw what it was.
Wow.
And so finally we got one of those railroad workers to make a contact with. So I'm looking forward to talking to this guy and learning more about that. So
yeah, that's about to say there's no telling what they see. You know what I'm saying? Well, hello there, brother. How you doing there, Sir Brian?
Hey there.
He's adjusting himself there.
Let him get adjusted here.
Sorry about that.
You're
That's
all right.
I just did my premiere show on, the new show, and I'm looking at the time. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try to get here at 9:00 most of the time.
All right, right on.
Yeah,
That's
But I
all
always
right.
love to talk to railroad workers because there's no telling what they see. You know what I'm
Well,
saying?
yeah, and this guy was out. He wasn't on the train. He was out doing something with one of the little stations out in the middle of nowhere at night. He said he's a significant walk away from his vehicle, and as he was walking back down the tracks going toward his vehicle, he heard something coming up the tracks walking. He said kicking the rocks around the tracks, and I'm like this is too much noise for a human being. He goes, as it got close enough to me, I shined a flashlight on it. And he's, holy cow, this big, hairy Bigfoot. And as soon as the Bigfoot had the light shown on him and saw him, he just walked off the tracks into the west, into the woods, and made himself scarce. He was like, he just shocked to see that. He's like, whoa. and then you think, I've been out here doing this for how many years now in my job, and these things have been out here, and I didn't know it.
that's the unnerving part.
That's the unnerving
you're
part.
being watched when you're in the woods.
Yeah,
Railroad tracks are notorious
yes.
for all these cryptids and creatures to travel because it's easy to get to. They can travel a long distance. No one's really hanging out by them.
No,
And
it's the path of least resistance.
Yeah. I had an encounter a couple of bunch of Thanksgivings ago in Elkton, Maryland, which I may have mentioned, and I stayed at a Hampton Inn.
Yeah.
And I'm on the first floor, and I went out to the side entrance and to smoke a cigarette. There's railroad tracks behind the complex, the place. And it has this arch going, you're on a grade. So it goes down, like 20 feet. And then there's an archway going into the woods. And I'm seeing these amber eyes eventually after the second time coming out. But that is a perfect pathway.
Oh, yeah.
And it gets that squatchiness. It gets that Dogman-esque type to it. So I'm smoking a cigarette. And I go on my phone. And I'm like, werewolf sightings, Elkton, Maryland.
Oh, wow.
And wouldn't you know it? So they put in, there was a sighting. Husband and wife coming back on these, lonely roads, make a turn onto this one roadway, and they see a dead animal in the road. They see something, gorging at it. They figured it was a wolf or something. Well, that thing looked up and then stood up. The amber eyes, blood everywhere. And they got out of there as fast as they could, but they said for a good solid couple minutes, it felt like that creature was in their head, talking to them, and it unnerved them. So that location was literally, if my hotel is here, it was on the other side of the tracks, a couple of miles away.
And if you got a Hampton Inn, you're in civilization. You're in where population is, where the people are.
Right.
These things, they aren't that far. And
no, they're not. And yeah, I mean, I had the amber eyes coming. I got the goosebumps. I heard something coming, like trying to flank. Because from my personal experience, first and foremost, I hate that cryptid. I hate dogmen. It sounds all cute and fuzzy. It's not a nice cryptid. I think they know, they know what they look like. They know they scare the bejeebies out of everybody, and they love it. And they're very smart and intelligent, but it's just, with a Bigfoot, you kind of got a little leeway there. With these things, you don't know if you're dealing with a rabid pit bull or, something that's like, yeah, go ahead. But I got unnerved to the point where once I get the goosebumps at the time, that means things were, I thought I was going to get jumped. I went inside and I told my wife, at the time, I'm like, don't go out the side. The door sticks. I just made up an excuse. Go to the front if you're going to smoke. And she did. She came back in. wasn't going to do anything, but I actually put a chair under the door because if it smells you and it wants, whatever it is. But that's
What was
unnerving.
the town in Maryland? Somebody's asking.
This is Elkton, Maryland. It's I'll tell you exactly. Well, I don't know the name of the road. It's just over where the Delaware border is. It's like exit 109, I believe. And it's next to, there's a Cracker Barrel there and a my favorite place, Waffle House. Waffle House almost directly across the street. It's not really populated. There's a lot more woods there. And I've stayed there since, and actually probably a year ago, and I went out the side and I didn't get the vibe. I didn't get that Spidey's, tingle or anything like that. But yeah, it's right around there. It's near the University of Delaware kind of / area.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now we were just talking before you came on, Brian, about the person contacted me, a railroad worker contacted me about that.
Wow.
And his where he had that sighting was just below, we're talking 5 or 6 miles below where I research.
Oh.
And he was asking, and then just below where he had a sighting, there's a big Procter and Gamble plant.
Yep.
And then just below that, you got Trail of Tears State Park, and then you got the city of Cape Girardeau where I live. So it's all pretty close proximity to a lot of stuff that we do. And we always thought that the area along the river and the railroad tracks between the state park and the conservation area up north where I go a lot,
right,
was kind of a bottleneck travel way for them. And we thought, well, if we could ever contact these railroad workers, and then I had one reach out to me today and talked about his sighting in 2004. So that's where we were going with that.
Yeah, it's really hard for people that have these sightings that are not expecting it.
Right.
They may not want to, maybe they heard it and like, oh, there possibly could be something. And then there it is right there, all 7, 8, 9, 10 feet of it. And you're like, holy crap.
When you're not expecting it, when I had mine, I was waiting for it for 4 years. I was looking for it for 4 years. So when I saw it, I was, hey, finally, this is cool.
My first experience was in Western Connecticut, and I was young, and I didn't think the Bigfoots were on the East Coast.
Yeah. You didn't think that back then.
No. So I'm looking at something and like, there's a really big gorilla or monkey in my window.
Yeah.
I mean, and I kid you not, it was that's the distance between its face and my feet. And I'm, 10, 11 years old, and I'm like, what is that? I don't scare easily. The only time I get scared is when a doctor tells me it's a girl, another girl, like that's scary. But other than that, I mean, bring it. I mean, I'm not Mr. Tough Guy. There are moments. Let me tell you something. You go in, like, I'm sure you could attest to this. You go into the woods and you're going looking for the Bigfoot, and you get it. And there are pucker moments like, this is, you see this thing, it's massive, and it can do things that are unbelievable.
Right.
Yeah. So there's a healthy respect there, but
I had a moment like that a couple years ago. I had one come at night and stand right outside the tent, and I could hear him breathe, and I could see the silhouette outline, massive, and I'm telling myself the whole time, talk to it, say something to it, talk to it, reach out to it. One of my buddies is over there snoring. The other one was awake, and he was kind of on alert too. But I froze. I couldn't say a word. And I didn't say a word. And he walked off finally and then back into the woods. And I thought, you know what? I had an opportunity to try to reach out and communicate up close, and I choked.
It happens.
You have those moments. Yeah.
I'll be brutally honest. It happens. I know some people. I know someone that's gone up to Canada to take a look, and he's in a cabin with, and like that's super rural. Like you have to get a seaplane to get there.
Yeah.
And they're in the cabin, they're gung ho and looking for it, and they get a boom on the side of the wall, and they're like stuffing stuff in the door to be like, don't let it in. It changes during the, when you're at the moment. Like you could sit here and play armchair quarterback all you
right.
want.
Absolutely.
I mean, like, well, yeah.
You
But
remember the old Monster Quest TV show, and
yeah,
they were up at that Snowgrove Lake cabin up there in Canada, and flew in there, and they had Meldrum, and they had some other big name, and they're and then the Sasquatch comes. They come in, they start throwing rocks at them and throwing rocks at the cabin, and they all ran inside and locked the doors.
yeah.
And,
I mean, and yeah.
I had hijack when I was doing my show a few years ago. I had hijack on the show one night. I asked him about this. You guys had a golden opportunity to get what you wanted, and y'all ran inside. I said, explain that to me. He said, well, I'll just say there are some things that didn't make the TV show that we're not going to talk about.
Look, I'll tell you that there's something in the air or something. You can feel it when need to back away from a situation versus like, hey, we come in peace, talk to me. And that may have been a moment where, once people get really scared, they know it, they sense it, and they have hand. And there's nothing you can do. Like, hey, we want to talk to you. No, they want you out. If they're throwing rocks and boulders, they don't. There is somebody. Yes, hi Nana. I just did my show. Okay, Nana was there. So hi, I'm here now. They know who's good and who's bad, and they get it. What they do is they get it from. We were talking about frequency on my show, but they get it from your frequency vibration, which is easily seen through your aura. Okay, they know who's good and who's bad, and they know you're coming. Because there's something about it that hits into that center, call it the Akash record or that source, and they know, oh, Brian's coming. Oh, he's good. He's not going to, do something. They know it. They even know that when, in Florida, you can carry. So, we've gone on investigations. We carry because you have panthers, you have like boars, wild hogs. You can get hurt, and other things. And we always I always tell them, yes, we do have weapons. They're not for you. They're to protect us against other predators. And if we have to take one of them out, we leave it for you as a tribute. That's it. So they're okay with it. But I've been on investigations. I got a bad vibe when someone came along, and I'm like, and I told my buddy, I'm like, dude, this is not going to work out. And yeah, we don't get anything, or we get the monkey bark or the rocks constantly being thrown and stuff. And I tell them, get him out of here. They don't want him here. So it's crazy.
I just got a message from the guy that reached out to me today on this railroad worker. He just sends me a message. He's talking about the place. He says, he said it was brown, tall, walking on 2 feet. He goes, that was enough for me to be convinced. So Martin, our friend Martin with Camping with Sasquatch is in the chat, and Martin Lordsburg, and he's from Indiana, and he goes out and camps by himself, different Sasquatch areas across the country. That's his thing. And he was actually up in my research area over Christmas Eve, Christmas Day. And I got family in. I said, look, I'm not free until whatever day. I said, I'm going to come up camp. But now it rained every day. It finally rained him out. So we weren't able to connect. Martin, we got to get you back to that spot and coordinate with me before you go to make sure I'm free to go out and do some camping with you, because I'd love to. And hopefully the weather's better. So by the time I was freed up to go catch up with him, he'd already went somewhere else because of the rain. So,
well, I mean, I'm not to tell anybody how to go out and investigate, but I highly, highly recommend and suggest you go with one other person, more than one. because
Yeah.
you get
Right,
out in some of
absolutely.
this terrain and by accident, look what happened to those Bigfooters.
Yeah.
That's what we were
They
Yeah.
talking
died.
about.
And you know, you got to have somebody there as your backup. Like, I'm going to go get help. You know, here's the stuff. I'm going to call it in. I'm going to go get help. You can buy satellite phones now and stuff that really inexpensive. And the plans are super inexpensive. You have the
Right.
new iPhone. I'm not a big fan of it. But that's a satellite-based phone. If you need an emergency, practice it before you go, because you get into a situation out in the woods and you're the only one going. You didn't tell anybody you were going. Bye. See ya. It'd be
Yeah.
bad. Definitely lots of sounds there. I'm just checking out the comments on there. But that would be great if you two link up and then you do your thing.
Yeah. Because I'm always with somebody else. I'm not just for that reason. Just I don't think my wife would let me go if I was going by myself either. She's like, wait a minute, no, I don't do that. But
And you know, and I don't know, did your wife ever go with you on an investigation?
yeah, a couple daytime things.
But in
And
general, she's like, yeah, okay, I'm
it's
not
not her.
ready for
It's
this.
not her thing. She knows I'm telling the truth. She knows she's seen all the
Right.
evidence, but she's it's not her thing. So
I have you know, younger kids. Well, one's 17, one's 13, and they both want to go. And I'm like, I'm not taking you. I won't take you until you're an adult, and I won't take you until you have a concealed carry. And you know what
I'd
you're
take them.
doing.
I took
Well,
a group of high school kids on a school sponsored field trip last spring on a day trip to go out and
it's a
you
great
know
school. Who
we
sponsors a
we
big
we casted a nice print, didn't we, Grizzly?
Yeah,
That
So
yeah.
is awesome. What school is this?
it's a high school in southeast Missouri.
That's
And
great.
I
I
mean
love
it's
the
funny.
fact that they said,
Yeah,
yeah, let's go. We'll
yeah.
go out
But
and do Bigfooting.
well, it started. One of the seniors, one of the girls, valedictorian at the school. She says to me, she says, we want you to do something for us before we graduate. I said, what's that? She says, take us out
Oh, okay.
and show us what you know, because we want to believe you.
Right.
Because they thought I was
That's
this
great.
crazy teacher that does Bigfoot shows. You know. And she goes, we want to believe. I said, well, okay. I said, we got to do it proper way. The male teacher just can't take high school girls to the woods, right?
Yeah.
So
That's
be in trouble. I
yeah.
said, so let's get a field trip and let's get some guys, some girls, some friends, and
Yeah.
had one of my research buddies meet us out there, and I showed them how to find tracks, tracks, how to track. We saw about 5 or 6 different size tracks that day. Which 5 or 6 different Bigfoots, right? And then we saw one perfect for casting, and I had the mixture, and I had the kids mix it up, and I had the kids pour it, and the kids
That's great.
casted it, and we could come out with a 17-inch by 9 wide, beautiful footprint cast, and 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 change those kids' lives and their perception of Bigfoot and what's out in the wood. And most of these kids they're hunters. They're out in the woods all the time.
Yeah. You know, I used to do a show called Three Beards, and hey Brian. And Craig, who started the Beards, he's a hunter. He's in, like I think Washington State or Oregon or whatever. And he's like, I've never seen anything. I've been out in the woods 7 days hunting, didn't hear or see anything. And what people don't understand is these creatures do know what weapons are,
Oh yeah,
Right.
and they
Absolutely.
know what they're capable of. So if they know and they can sense their radius of sensing smells and sense, it's a vast distance. They're not going anywhere near you. That would be like, walking into someone's home that you don't know and just walking through the door and like,
they're not going to let you see them,
yeah,
and unless you're lucky or they at some point decide to do that, and that's the thing, and we've that's what fascinates me about them is they exist. They're out there in abundance, and you know they can have eyes on you, and you'd never know it. But,
Right. They do it all the time.
And so, which is why I like to study them and see what's going on. So, but yeah, that's I've been out with my son a few times, but my son's of course he's a 31-year-old adult now, but he's not into it though. He's it's not.
He's doing it because Dad's asked him.
He'd rather hunt deer, and he did have an aggressive encounter with a couple of them one time when he was hunting by himself, and I ain't messing with it. I'm not messing.
You're messing with their food, you know.
I said, well, you went in their area where they didn't want you at. I said,
you're taking food out of their mouths. They're going to be very
right.
I said that.
Yeah. Nana said it correct, and I know this, that they will pick and choose who they reveal themselves to.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, when they get caught on camera, and I'm talking about digital cameras, and they're unaware that being filmed, that's when they don't put their defenses up, that mess around with it. That's where you get your blob squatches from 9 out of 10 times. They know you have a camera there. They don't want to be filmed. They don't know what it is. So this is just my personal opinion and research, and they can mess around with your, the energy on your camera and the sensors and fuzz it up. They have the ability of that. But when you have an encounter, or they have an encounter, and they're walking in the woods, they don't realize there's a drone up there. They're not paying attention. They don't know it's a drone. They think it's a bird. And then you get some good video. Those are the best ones. Or like the railroad worker you're talking to.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm ready to go home, and like, holy crap. What the hell is that? And then you go home and you tell everybody, and they think, what were you drinking? Drinking on the job again.
Well, especially in 2004 was before a lot of these cable shows came out and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There wasn't a whole lot of information in 2004 out there like there is now, and you go home, tell somebody what you saw, they're gonna say, oh, what were you smoking, what were you drinking, you sure you weren't, sure it wasn't a bear.
Bear, famous bird.
I've always, the people are, you sure it wasn't a bear? I'm like, I'm pretty damn sure it wasn't a bear.
I think I've seen a bear before too. I think I know what that looks like.
Well, I mean, we had a bluff charge, and bears do it, but then we had activity prior and after that it's basically exclusive to what the Bigfoot does.
Right.
And we know what we're dealing with. And people are like, you sure it wasn't a bear? And I'm like, the one guy that was with us was he wanted to go for the experience, a friend, but he got the crap scared out of him. I mean, he was really that bluff charge, and he was taken off in pitch black in the woods, and that's a sure way to get yourself killed or blinded, because you don't know where you're running.
You run into a limb or anything, but bluff charge would do that to you.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're not expecting it, and I think this purposely did it to that one because it could sense who was there, and for the who's gonna take the bluff charge better, because we stood our ground. Two of us were, this is what we do. And he knew, like, I'm not going to get those two, but I want to scare the crap out of that other guy over there. And maybe they'll, go chase him. And then and they used it. This creature used it as a distraction because it wanted to get its family from one other point near us over to where we were, the other side of us.
Right.
So it's, when and you could talk to him, like verbally talk to him, like, listen, we're not here to harm you or anything. We just love to have an interaction. That's something interesting. I've taken my daughter, my oldest. I do a lot of I call it active intelligent encounters. Some people call them CE5s. And she was stoked. She was like, oh my God. And she's telling, her mom, like, this is what Dad did, and Dad did this and that. And it was kind of like, I'm cool for once, and she had, she saw some UFOs, and the problem with those type of things, it's just like Bigfooting. when you do an active intelligence encounter, it's your intent. And if you have people there joking around, they will not come closer. They want you serious just as much as they are. Like, listen, this isn't a joke. We're not playing. Don't make fun. And the craft just stood out, just on the peripheral, because there was one woman there who was just beyond obnoxious. And even my daughter complained, like, if that woman wasn't saying what she was saying or fooling around, we would have had craft come in. You would have had something over your head.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's the same thing with Bigfoot. If you go in there serious, but in a positive way, you're going to have that encounter. I think, with High Check up there in Canada with the rock throwing,
Right.
someone on that team they didn't like. I will wager. There
Probably
was somebody
so.
with them.
Probably so.
Yeah. And you know what? Even though I love Meldrum, he's a really, really great guy, really nice guy, very smart. I don't think he's prepared to see this in person, in general, because he's learned book-wise, like this is your book-wise, right?
Right.
Book. And then here comes this, Bumble's bounce, and you're like, totally is out of proportion of what we
a lot of people are not prepared to see the creature at all. A lot of people think they are, but once they have the encounter, they lose all self-control.
Oh yeah. Man, when I got that real good, I was just in awe. I was like, finally, we're sitting there looking at each other for 30 yards or so, and exchanging I called it exchanging pleasantries. I said some real nice things to this big fella, and he gave me a head nod. As he turned and walked off. And it is like, that's so cool.
I'm waiting for that moment that I get that telepathic communication.
Yeah, I didn't get that, but
I have yet to get that. I know some people that have.
Yep.
And I kind of want that. I mean, I have it's a new talent. Oh, it's been for a couple of years, but it's Claire Audio, which is I do hear people that have passed. And when I do readings for people, I can hear them. I know what they're saying, and you can actually hear it audio wise. So I wouldn't be freaked out by it, but it would be nice to have a conversation with one of them, even if they're like, what are you doing here? Why are you interrupting my life? Just to explain myself. I think they know, like, when you go out, Grizzly and Mike, and if we all three of us went out, they know we're not there to, ruin their day or hurt them or hurt them. And they may be a little bit more, because we vibrate on a different frequency. But there are other people, and I know people that investigate, and they're I want answers. They're in it for the wrong reasons.
Right.
They're in it for this.
Yeah,
that's true. I'm in it to get answers. I was asked at one point by another host, it's Spaced Out Radio. I'm sure you guys heard of it, and Dave Scott. And the question is, if you had that definitive proof, what would you do with it?
Exactly.
And I mean, like, I don't know. Well, what would you, Grizz, what would you do if you had it? If you had, like, there it is, it's right there, no questions asked, definitive proof, like you and him together, selfie time, I don't know. I don't know if I'd really go public with it. I don't know about you. What do you think, Mike? I mean, would you go?
Well, okay.
You'd want to, but
when I looked the back a year ago, December, we had that locking eyes at 30 yards and for about 15 seconds. I mean, it wasn't just a bang and go. It was like, there he was, there I am. He was, he's on all fours too, but all fours looking at, they're a bit of 10 foot tall, but he's on all fours, and we're looking at each other in the eye, and I'm 6'5", and when I was explaining that to my dad, he's like, well, he goes, did you get a picture of it? I said, the last thought that came through my mind was to pull a phone out of my pocket
Yep.
and take his picture. I was enjoying that moment so much. I didn't want to screw it up by reaching into my pocket for something. You know,
Well, yeah, yeah. You were connecting. You were
yeah,
connected, even though
we
you
were
may not
making a
have.
connection,
Yeah, and
and
yeah,
and
that's
so I didn't want. I'm like, that's the last thing that I said. Never crossed my mind at that time. Get his picture, so everybody else can laugh at it.
Yeah, right.
Say, oh,
And
that's not really a a big.
it doesn't.
Like,
You know,
well,
it
and I
doesn't.
know a lot of people that's got prime time footage or prime time pictures that refuse to show it because
yeah,
they don't want
Yeah.
the world to see it.
Because they're gonna think, oh, that's a CGI or that's
Yes.
AI or whatever.
anything that you have that's good now, they're going to think it's AI,
Yes,
Yeah, that's
absolutely.
the big problem. I you
and
know,
that's the issue you're dealing with. You know,
100%.
and then you look at the ones from years back that were good, whether it be Patterson or Freeman or those footage. They got picked apart by people, and and they're very good pictures. So it's
I
like
think they're great pictures, and
I tell people, I said, you have to go out and just get your own experiences. If you're really
yeah,
interested, and don't sit there and tell me what I'm not doing or what I'm not seeing. You get out, and you're welcome to come with me and get your own experiences, and
yeah,
and then don't worry about
that's
proving it
yeah,
to the
that's
world.
it's when I do if I do a conference or whatever, I try to bring my own video. Unless I don't have something and I could have to borrow a great evidence from a third party, and like North American Dogman Project. I mean, I'm a director over there or whatever, but there are other people that have some good video, and I want to use that as an example. This is a legitimate thing. I have stuff from government agencies like
Yeah,
forestry and whatever, and they've caught these things, and the videos have gotten out. You know, even when you put up legitimate stuff, people are like, oh, that was debunked 3 years ago. It's blah blah blah. You know what? You're
yeah,
damned if you do, damned if you don't. But when
yeah.
I do bring my own stuff up, I actually took that video. I took it. There was one time on a big investigation, we're packing up after a Bigfoot experience to go to another location, and I put my camera in my bag, and something said, Brian, don't be that guy that has that one moment and has the camera in the bag. So I put it in my breast pocket. And we got to a certain point and we had a craft like, what the hell is that? And I took the camera out and I started recording. And when I do, like if I'm doing a ghost investigation, we're talking about ghosts or whatever. My wife gets mad at me, like, take pictures. So I always take 3 pictures. I'm a 3 picture in a row. Chink, 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 boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
That's from ghost hunting. Or Sasquatching or Bigfooting or whatever it is, because you can't just take one shot. You have to take a series of 3. And I use 3 as the magic number, 3, 6, 9, because you want to see things, what's moving, what's different in each photo. You stay there and you go click, 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 and then you'll see the movement and you'll know if it's real or if it's shadow play or fake. So every time I take pictures, my wife's like, take a picture. She goes, why do you have 19 pictures here? I'm like, it's just a forced habit. Pictures of people right there. But it's I don't know. I mean, I know certain people I'd love to show the if I had the proof, I'd say I got something and I want to show you, but I'm not putting it over the air and I'm not doing this way. I'll come to you.
Yeah.
That would be great, but too many people are in it to try to be famous or make money. And I've heard too many stories of people going out there big time. Ooh, I'm an investigator, and they soiled their pants. I'm not kidding. It's no disrespect.
I don't doubt that one bit.
I mean, like I've had a couple of Depends encounters. You wish you were wearing Depends because it is no joke coming up against something that is 7, 8, 9, 10 plus feet and massive and muscles. And like I've said before, I used Bubbles the chimp as an example. That's a little chimpanzee. He could rip your head off your body.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, take that and multiply it 12 feet. What do you think it can do? It rips
No,
it.
absolutely.
Bigfoot
Absolutely.
is ripped the heads off of bulls. They can
Yeah.
shred an animal
Yeah.
and without even thinking about it.
Oh yeah.
Um, they love cracking the bones to suck on the marrow. The marrow's good. It's real. That's richer. So just think, I don't blame people for getting all upset and nervous, but don't come off as the big time guy. Just come off as a normal person. We're all normal. We have those moments like it's wintertime, right? You ever drive on black ice? That'll wake you up real quick.
Oh, it sure will.
Yeah. You can like, I'm the best driver in the world. Hit a patch of black ice.
You're absolutely right.
And you're just like at the end of it, you're like, I don't drink, but I need one right now. Yeah. So, but I'm sure that railroad man.
Or start sliding in the snow when you're driving a school bus and you've got kids in the school bus too.
Oh my
That's
god, that's terrible.
like, wait a minute.
I've seen it. See, I don't know what it's like around the country, but the school buses that they used in New York City, I mean, they didn't even like tread on the tires. It was like, it was all creaky and like we're gonna die in this thing. It's really, really, really a rough spot right there. But I can only imagine why did he take so long to tell somebody about his encounter? On the tracks.
Well, today's the first day we've contacted, so I want to talk to him more about that.
Okay.
I want to get into, maybe we can get him on a show one night, Grizzly. I don't know.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
And just say, have you talked? When did you start talking to people about it? What was their reactions? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
So, that's the kind of things I want to know. When I talk to people that have had encounters is who did you tell? What was their reaction? Because a lot of times they'll start with family, and when family shoots them down, they don't want to go. They're not going to go anywhere else.
Right. I mean,
And,
yeah.
And if you've had an encounter and you've talked to family, you've been shot down by at least one family member. I can guarantee it.
Yeah, it's my dad never believed any of the stuff that I did until he's you give him some proof and evidence and he's like and he has to be dad, so he's it got to him, but he has to pull back from it. Like
that's same with my dad. He's figured it out, but he won't admit it to you.
Yeah, no, it's great. I have those, we had a UFO come over the house. Like 3 weeks after my youngest saw a fleet of UFOs. It was amazing, 7 UFOs. And she goes, I can't believe I saw my first UFO. I said, you didn't see one UFO. You saw 7, She's like, woo, and she fist bumped me and whatever. And then she's having a sleepover and another one literally came right over the house. I have it on video. And I called her out. You can hear her on video and you hear they're back. But, her friends that were there, they said, oh, that's UFOs. Those are aliens. And they got nervous. And you're like, well, how do you know that? Because that's my dad. He knows it all. He's an expert in this. And then you hear their mom in the background. Who left the door open? Like it's the end of the world, mom. We can leave the door open. But if you don't experience, if you don't see it, you would never. It is a lot to believe. I mean, we went to a location upstate New York with someone who investigates, and it happened to be behind a school, like Marist University.
Yeah,
there's a lot of people there, but they like that. It's like going to Walmart for them when they go into the the trash container. Like, ooh, food. They get lazy that way. But started to rain, and there was like a 7-foot grade or more until like a little stream. And we're looking around and I go, what the hell is that? And I go over to it and there's like a 21-inch print there.
Wow.
And it was step on the grade and then into the stream. You can see the heel. The gate was probably about 6 feet. And we, we wanted to cast it, but there was a lot of lightning in the area and we just couldn't get it done. But, thank God I had 2 other people there to see it. And like, holy crap, but when you tell them, they don't care. Or you have a plaster, you cast them and they're like, oh, you guys are wearing something. No,
no. How do we know you didn't do that?
Yeah. That's what I want to do with my spare time.
But that's why when I took the kids out and when we start showing the prints, right. The first half dozen prints we see are not castable prints, but I'm showing them how they are prints. What sets them apart. And you reach down there and feel toes at the end of that. In this and look at now if that's a print there. Let's look ahead for where the next impression is going to be. And they're not. It's not just they're there. You got to look for them. If you're just taking a walk, you're not going to see them. And then once they start, and then all of a sudden they come across that perfect one, the cast, and hey, I brought it with me. Perfect, wonderful. I was hoping we'd have this moment, and yeah, they see it, but they saw it from themselves.
Right.
If I just gone out, cast the print, and brought it in, they could have said, "Did you plant that?"
Yeah.
Well, they saw nothing. That's what's being planted. Those,
And the worst thing in the world, Mike, is like when you go. I went out with a buddy of mine. It was his group, his location, West Coast, Florida, and we had 2 prints right there in the parking lot. One was 9 foot, the other one was like 17, right? And it was like a father son, mother daughter, whatever it is. Great prints, and I didn't have casting material readily available, but I had LiDAR. So I LiDAR'd it, and you can measure it. And then they went out. We were having activity in the campground. We had like 20 acres to ourselves.
Yeah.
But they wanted to go out to this one area. So we went out, nothing, blah, blah, blah. And later on, he's like, I should have listened to you. We should have stayed in the campground.
They'll come.
Right.
Yeah,
but it's fine. You know what? You're inviting me to your place the first time around. I'm like, I'm a guest. I'm not going to say, I'll suggest to one of the guys, but we're going to go wherever you want to go. But next time when I go out, I'm like, no, we're staying here tonight. I'm staying here tonight, because they had a ton of activity in the campground after that too. He goes, you were right. We should have stayed there.
And somebody asked me, unfortunate that the 2 research guys in Washington over Christmas that were found dead, and they were pretty deep into the woods, from what I understand. And somebody asked me, well, what do you think? I said, well, if they listen to anything that I've said, you don't have to go far to find them.
No, you really don't.
They'll come find you. They'll come right behind your tent and start messing around, won't they, Grizz?
Yeah, they sure will.
They come to you. They love campgrounds. They love preserves where you walk through like in the woods or whatever. Yeah. They love it because you know what? They know you're going to drop stuff and they're going to want to get it. They know that you're going to, believe it or not, they like the tobacco. They like that. They like the leftover beer you leave there. It's crazy, but they're waiting for you to do that. So it's the great part about it. And you'll find some great tracks. Mike, you're talking about uncastable. Everybody went out of our campground the next day. Like we went out at 11:30. I didn't get to sleep till 5 a.m. And I know I had one. I slept in my car. It was so hot and muggy. I would never have gotten up from my tent because it was so low to the ground. And I know I had one on my passenger side because I saw the condensation. I saw it, like it was breathing. And I just didn't care. I was so tired. I'm like, you can watch me all you want, buddy. And the next day I walked out and their knuckle prints. It was leaning down on the ground and looking into my car. But everybody else goes to town to get whatever breakfast or whatever it is miles away. And I'm sitting over there by this campfire and I'm walking around. I'm like, that's a footprint.
Yep. Yep.
And I'm looking at it, and I have a left and right footprint 27 inches long.
I mean, in
Yeah.
27 is, that's as about as
That's a
big as it's gonna get.
big,
And
big
and
creature.
and
Yeah.
and the thing is, I mean, because we've seen them like right there at a boat ramp or at the campground, right? I mean, you see the prints.
Yeah.
They'll come right there.
Oh,
And
yeah.
and
I used to be friendly with Daryl Dawkins. He played basketball.
oh yeah,
76ers,
Chocolate Thunder, right?
Chocolate Thunder. Very, very friendly with
Oh
him.
yeah,
Unfortunately, he passed away, but
right.
I remember picking Daryl up at the airport in at Bradley International, and they gave us a smaller cart. I'm like, this guy's like almost 7 feet tall, and he's huge.
Oh yeah.
And he gets out of the car and he stretches, and it's like, I went with my dad to pick him up, and he's like, I thought he was going to pull the sun out of the sky. I mean, like, that's how big he is. Now, he was almost 7 feet tall. Okay. Big monster of a
Oh
man.
yeah. Well, he was the first one to shatter the backboards. You remember
Yeah, he did that.
shattered those backboards.
Oh yeah, he destroyed them. But you these things are bigger than him.
Yeah.
Oh,
A
yeah.
lot bigger than him.
Well, and then the width, the massiveness.
The
You even take
thickness and the,
Even
yeah,
take a 7-footer like him, and he was a big NBA guy. But he wasn't no skin and bones. You take a
No.
7-footer, 7-foot squat, they're gonna dwarf him.
Yeah.
So.
These are so big. I mean, really, really big heads, and it's just. I hope everybody gets a chance to go out in the woods and go camping. Try to do some camping this year when it was warmer.
I tell the folks all the time. I said I'll be glad to take you out. I'd be glad to take you out.
I mean, now that my kids are older and they can handle it, I would take them out. What they don't realize is, when women go out there, because they do menstruate and they smell it, some of them smell it. It is an attraction for some of them to come in like, ooh, what's going on in here? So not that we're going to use you as bait, ladies, but you have to be warned when you go out there.
Yeah, they do. They really do. We hear stories all the time, don't we, Mike?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We hear them, but it's I can't wait to take my grandson out.
It's going to be great.
To just we're not talking about going. Just take him out, show him. Just have a blast with him. So teach him.
Yeah, it's great. So. You're dealing with something big when your 150-pound Rottweiler does not want to leave that tent.
Yeah.
So
I'm glad everybody got to tune in tonight. It was a quick hour, so thanks everybody.
Thank you.
Enjoyed it. So tune
Happy
in.
New Year, everybody. Good to see everybody back.
Happy New Year.
Yep. Happy New Year. And well, I had to start my show. My show is, I told you before, it's Wednesday. So
I'm glad you made it. That was great.
I'm gonna, unless I have some amazing, Monday, where I want to talk a little bit longer, I'll, whenever you put the call out, I'll eventually show up someplace in this chat.
All right.
All right, folks.
All right, everybody have a good night. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Everybody, bye-bye.